given the length of this hearing and possible testimony, I'm going to limit the testimony to 10 minutes per side on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members, for allowing me to be here to present AB 19. AB 19 is an effort to try to greatly and vastly improve our voter system. We have a system that's broken. We have very low voter participation. If you look at November 2012, we had a turnout of 57.5%, which is lower than 2004 and 2008. In December of 2012, in fact, 20% of voters that were interviewed and surveyed actually said that they would actually be more inclined to vote if they could actually use the internet to vote. In 2013, in the LA City's mayor race, one of the most high-profile races in our state, only 16% of people, of actually registered voters turned out. 16%. We have a special election to fill one of our state senators in Fresno. We'd be ecstatic to have over 10% voter turnout. We're seeing other states already take the lead in technology, where California, the leader in technology in every single other arena, is actually falling behind. West Virginia, in 2010, piloted allowing overseas voters to vote via the internet. Online ballot applications were returned 82% of the time, versus mail ballots, which were returned 40% of the time. Overall, the statewide turnout was at 23%. So by utilizing technology, utilizing tools, we can increase voter participation. We can do significantly better. Other states have already started looking at it. Arizona, in 08, 10, and 12, has allowed military and overseas voters to scan and upload their marked ballots to a secure website. In 2004, Michigan's Democratic Party allowed primary voters to be cast online. In 2008, Florida allowed military and overseas voters to vote via pre-established controlled computer polling stations. And in 2012, Colorado passed legislation requiring the Secretary of State to develop a county internet voting pilot program for military and overseas voters. 6 states are also currently looking at how technology can improve voter turnout: Arizona, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, New Jersey, and New York. Currently, we don't have a system that is perfect. We have a system that is faulty. We all read the Sacramento Bee articles about Sacramento finding 400 ballots in Sacramento County after the vote was certified and after the ballots were counted, rendering those 400 ballots nil. We heard in the city of Compton finding 5 absentee ballots that are supposed to be returned to City Hall, but were found in the recycling bin behind the post office. Currently, we have many ballots that are left to interpretation because they're marked in certain ways that county elections officials have to determine or try to guess how they were elected. Again, this is just one more tool for potential counties to do that. This is allowing the Secretary of State to do a top-down review, which a vendor would have to pay for. Assemblymember Bonta and I have discussed another stopgap measure, which he and I let him talk about. But to have another stopgap measure to test the system further. And then and only then would counties be allowed the opportunity to opt in. No county would be forced to do it. No county would be made to do it. It's just another tool for them to increase voter turnout. So with that, I'm open to questions and would ask your aye vote.
Okay, witnesses in support of this bill.
Hello, my name is Brent Turner. I'm here representing the open source election reform community. The community of open source scientists has been in, and we're supporting this bill, by the way. The community has been in direct dialogue with the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, and we just want to bring it to your attention that the President is interested in the open source reforms that I think are on the table at this point. We support this bill for numerous reasons. The current election systems have been studied and found to be faulty, and so there is a market failure currently existing. So preserving the status quo is really not one of the above. So recognizing that internet voting is likely to come into usage, we want to move along the study of the security and make sure that the good open source scientists have the ability to go ahead and dedicate their efforts to a project such as this, a pilot. We've been in touch with numerous counties throughout the state and come to find out that in particular Inyo County, but other counties are at the ready to conduct a pilot. And so again, we support this bill. The state certainly at this point should opt out of federal certification and not require it for either the hardware or the software. The EAC at this time is fairly non-functional with absent members, and we just want to put on the record that we don't believe any secret software or intellectual property protected software should be involved in any voting system. These should be state-owned systems, and the open source community is at the ready to go ahead and participate to whatever degree allowed toward the security of these systems. This is doable either through PDF or through other approaches. This is something that's coming, and we just applaud the effort of the Assemblyperson in moving this forward, and we want California to take a leadership position. Thank you.
Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition to this bill. Okay, you are allowed 10 minutes for your actual testimony and then plus the Me Too. So you figure out who wants to do the 10 minutes.
I'll keep mine as short as possible. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of VerifyVoting.org. We are opposed to the bill. We've had concerns. I know we've had conversations with the author's office as well as the committee. At the beginning of the process, we raised concerns with the pilot, putting a live pilot into a bill at this moment in time. I'll let some of the other witnesses address that. We put forward an alternative approach, which is a way to move forward the idea of internet voting without actually jumping to live voting in legislation at this time. And that was to create a top-to-bottom review, which would really move the issue forward in a way that hasn't been done thus far. And we thought it was a very fair approach and something that this bill could carry and would be very beneficial to take a look at the technology. Unfortunately, while the amendment was taken, I want to thank the author for that. However, the pilot is still in the bill. And there are a number of problems that you will hear from a number of experts right now what the problems are. Our position is that this bill should not contain a live pilot where there will be actual votes at risk until there are a number of steps that are dealt with, and they should not be dealt with all in one bill. We have not seen, I think, what the official amendments are, proposed amendments, so I cannot speak to those and whether it addresses our concerns. I think I've seen a draft, but maybe I can look at it while I'm sitting up here. So we are opposed. We ask you not to move the bill forward as is and not with a live pilot in the bill. Thank you.
Witnesses in opposition.
Mr. Chair, Bart Broom representing Secretary of State Debra Bowen, who is opposed to this bill regretfully. In 2007, Secretary Bowen instituted a top-to-bottom review of voting systems, and it was conducted by nationally recognized computer scientists at the University of California. And the result of their findings led to the passage of AB 3026 in 2008. And that bill was sponsored by the Secretary and actually prohibited a voting system from being connected to the internet at any time. That bill was supported by both parties and passed unanimously without a no vote. Since that time, the cybersecurity threat has not decreased, it has increased. That's really important. There are more threats to hacking, to corrupt data. There are more threats to denial of service attacks. There's more threat of malware on voters' personal computers, and the threat of hacking that reroutes or disrupts internet traffic. So, the Secretary of State's Office of Voting Systems Technology Assessment and the National Institute of Standards and Technology have indicated that the technology simply doesn't exist yet to safely and securely have internet voting. The security vulnerabilities of internet voting systems pose far greater threat to election integrity than those posed by other types of voting systems. The current architecture of the internet is inherently insecure. There are numerous ways in which the integrity of electronic ballots can be compromised, and it is unclear if tampering with or disruption of internet voting would ever be detected. Internet voting systems also fail to protect a California voter's constitutional right to ballot secrecy. Large sophisticated organizations like Google and Citibank and the Department of Defense, these organizations have enormous security resources, and yet they've all been hacked. These entities, if these entities, Google and Citibank and the Department of Defense, if these entities can't prevent hacking of their assets, then how can we possibly expect county elections officials to be able to do that? I ask for your no vote.
In opposition?
I'm David Jefferson. I'm a computer scientist from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. I work in cybersecurity research. I'm a member of the board of directors of Verified Voting and of the California Voter Foundation, and I was chair of the technical committee of the Secretary of State's Task Force on Internet Voting in 1999, which the legislative analyst has referred to. I agree with all of the arguments that internet voting is a very dangerous thing to institute. But I'm here to talk specifically about the issue of pilots, because I think that people have the idea that by conducting pilots in a relatively safe way, you can get some understanding about the security issues of voting, and I'm here to say that you really can't. There are two kinds of pilots. One is when a pilot in a real election, which is what this bill as currently written calls for. And then there's the kind of pilot which is in a mock election where the votes don't count for anything, but you're still just testing the system. Neither one of them can give you very strong evidence that the system is secure. If it's in a real election, the white hat attackers, the people who are trying to help you by exposing vulnerabilities, they can't touch it. It's a real election. It's illegal to interfere with a real election. So only black hat attackers can attack a real election. And then several outcomes may happen. Maybe nobody attacks it. Then you know nothing. Maybe they attack, but you don't notice it. You don't detect it. This happens all the time. Many attacks go undetected. Maybe multiple players attack and succeed sometimes, fail sometimes, interfere with one another. It's not a controlled experiment. You can't learn something seriously about security by conducting a pilot in a real election. You also can't learn anything about security seriously by conducting it even in a mock election situation. Now, in a mock election situation, first of all, I have to say, you don't need a bill for that. Anybody can conduct a mock election. Any vendor can do that if they want to. But you still can't learn as much as you'd like, because now, even though the white hat attackers are now free to demonstrate that the system is insecure, they're free to find vulnerabilities in it, still, most of the kinds of attacks that a real attacker would conduct on an election is illegal. You still can't conduct a denial of service attack, because that would affect other people engaged in internet activity having nothing to do with the mock election. You can't circulate viruses to infect people's computers to show that you can mess with the election that way, because again, circulating malicious software like that is illegal. The real fact is that pilots just don't tell you what you want to know about the security of an internet election. So I ask for your no vote.
In opposition?
Yes, in opposition. My name is Tom Corbett, and I am a former finance director for the county of Riverside and 100% disabled Army veteran. I've been monitoring elections for 7 years, and I was appointed by the chairman of the Riverside County Board of Supervisors as the only citizen representative to partake in a $350,000 study of the problems associated with Riverside County's Registrar of Voters Office. As you may know, Riverside County was the first in California to embrace electronic voting, starting with the general election in the year 2000. There was much hoopla and excitement generated by this bold move by the county to embark upon a brave new paperless voting system, a system that in fact provided no ability to authenticate the report of votes cast on these new machines. The system provided no ability to conduct a public recount, although the public and the candidates were assured that a backup system was in place and the event of recount was needed. In 2004, a backup file was requested by a candidate in a close race for supervisor, and it suddenly became impossible to provide such a file. It was deemed proprietary, and thus the assurances of security and recountability faded away. I bring that up because you're going to have such assurances, I'm sure, as you go through an internet voting type of case. Federal certification of voting systems has become nearly meaningless, since some of the certification companies themselves were decertified for failure to follow their own quality control procedures. One company withdrew when advised that they needed to comply with specific requirements. You should know that certification is voluntary, so no state's required to have a certified system if they choose not to. And one company, Sequoia, took their system to another testing lab when the system was flunked by the first testing lab. The EAC has 4 commissioner vacancies. That wouldn't be so bad, except that there's only 4 positions there, and they've been vacant since the year 2011. So there's no leadership there. And while the Secretary of State did a commendable job in identifying the myriad of flaws in the electronic voting systems in California, she's declared that she has essentially no enforcement authority. Thus, if and when counties disregard security requirements placed upon them by the SOS, there is no corrective action taken to ensure that voters, that the system that they're using is reliable and secure, and that the reported election results can be authenticated. In essence, our election system is based on trust. Here's a key point I'd like to make. If you believe that this is the way to conduct business, as important as elections, allow me to purchase your car for sale for $10,000. I will give you a stack of bills, and there will be a $100 bill on top, and there will be a $100 bill on the bottom, and you will simply trust me when I tell you there's 98 additional $100 bills in this stack. I'll then take possession of your pink slip in your vehicle, just as election companies take possession of our votes. We are told we may not review the various components of the vote counting system because it's proprietary. And as Joseph Stalin commented, those who cast the vote decide nothing. Those who count the votes determine everything. Now my last statement. We now come to the concept of internet voting. Well, maybe that's a euphemism. Actually, we were talking about internet counting. As we've learned in the decades since Jack Abramoff and Bob Ney created HAVA and dispersed $4 billion to put in place an electronic voting system that is proven to be as vulnerable as a stack of $100 bills, there is not adequate security when votes become ones and zeros. They cannot be tracked, traced, or authenticated. Our federal government's done nothing to shore up the security of our voting systems since 4 private voting machine companies were given an open ticket to sell $4 billion worth of insecure machines to our election officials. And now we want to embark on this pilot journey because California is the home of Silicon Valley, and surely we must somehow, some way, be able to make the internet secure enough to entrust our votes, the currency of democracy, to this entity that the Pentagon cannot protect against? Initial efforts in Washington, D.C. to implement internet voting were a total disaster. Please don't waste our precious and limited resources with a rush to be first, like we were with electronic voting. It is time to let others pilot this concept. It is far too dangerous to risk the already compromised security of our precious votes. I urge a no vote, and I thank you for your time. You have a minute left.
Sorry, Chairman, Committee. Excuse me. I'm Ronald Crane. My practice is in software engineering, in particular computer security. I'd like to make a couple of points. First, this bill has not been subject, as far as I know, to any peer review of the appropriate scientific community. This involves computational machinery and networks, for which there is a real peer review community from the Association of American, the IEEE and the ACM and other such groups. This bill needs that review. I would also like to point out that we had a very bad misadventure with direct recording electronic voting machines. This voting over the internet basically takes a direct recording electronic machine and runs wires to a back end. The direct recording electronic machine is now an insecure smartphone or an insecure personal computer that may have viruses and malware on it. The channel is not a wire inside the machine, it's the internet, which is subject to attack from anywhere worldwide, including selective denial of service attack, which could be used to prevent certain groups or certain portions of town or certain portions of the state from effectively casting their ballots. And that is basically undetectable and irremediable after the election, because those votes are just simply lost. So I urge no vote on this bill. Okay, thank you.
All right, the rest of the witnesses, just identify your name, your organization, and a brief statement.
I'm I'm Judy Bertelson. I'm a member of the Wellstone Democratic Renewal Club in the East Bay, and I'm a physician, and I urge a no vote.
Thank you.
I'm Gail Work with the California Election Protection Network. I'm also the former chair of the Election Integrity Committee for the San Mateo County Democratic Central Committee. That's for identification purposes only. And I just want to say that if this bill passes, it will be game over for trust in our elections. Thank you.
I'm Chandra Fries, a San Francisco resident, and I would urge a no vote on AB 19.
Hello, I'm Ed Ellsworth of Sunrise Center and trustvote.org. We'd urge a no vote on AB 19. We believe in the sanctity of paper ballots. Thanks.
I'm Sharon Sweeney, and I'm an elections commissioner for the Santa Clara County, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the commission. I have two letters here, one from me that explains our position, one from the chair of our commission, and one is from the vice chair, which is me. And so let me give those to you. And I just urge a no vote. And we have 4,500 DRE machines stored in a climate-controlled warehouse right now that can't be used, and it's costing our county day by day. Let's spend our money on voter education like our county has been doing, and we've done a great job increasing our voter, not only registration, but participation. Thank you.
I'm Mary Beth Brannigan from the Ecological Options Network, and we urge a no vote. This would be the tipping point for our democracy.
I'm Trudy Schaefer, representing the League of Women Voters of California, also urging a no vote on the bill.
I'm Herb Engstrom from Santa Clara County, from the California Democratic Council for Identification. I urge a no vote for the cybersecurity reasons given.
David Donaldson, member of Santa Clara County Democrat Club, just a regular citizen. I thought I'd tell you all that I have 3 acquaintances, 1 good friend, Cooper Union graduate. They design systems. I hear this is a 1 human generation away from possible, maybe 2 human generations. Vote no.
Members of the committee, Philip Fong on behalf of Common Cause, I just urge you, and I know your staff has been giving you recommendations because they've been lobbied hard over the last week on this bill, but we urge you a no vote and to just really listen to the science on this bill. We applaud Mr. Ting for trying to be a pioneer in this area, and we promise to work with him and pledge to work with him throughout the years and being, in order to make California a leader in this, but this bill just isn't it. We hope that you vote no on it. Thank you.
My name is Meg Holmberg. I'm part of the Voting Rights Task Force, which is affiliated with the Wellstone Democratic Club. I'm not a technical person, so when I try to understand an issue like this, I have to think about who to listen to. Do I listen to well-meaning legislators who are excited about the possibility of voting on smartphones and laptops, but who don't have technical expertise? Do I listen to vendors who stand to make substantial profits? Or do I listen to the dozens of computer scientists and internet security experts like David Jefferson, Dr. Jefferson, who warn us that the internet is simply too insecure to be entrusted with our elections, even for a pilot test? The choice is clear. Please vote no on AB 19.
I'm Nancy Price, co-chair of the Alliance for Democracy. My former co-chair, lawyer Cliff Arnebeck, is still litigating the stolen election in Ohio of 2004 that was stolen using the kind of technology that the DREs and other systems. I really respect the technical expertise given here and urge your no vote.
Hi, my name is Richard Tam. I'm co-chair of the Voting Rights Task Force and treasurer of the Wellstone Democratic Renewal Club. Both clubs voted unanimously against AB 19 because of the lack of security, transparency, and there's absolutely no way to do a recount. It's like DREs. All you do is get the same result every time because otherwise it's the definition of insanity. I strongly urge a no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Carl Carter. I'm a citizen of California and a resident of Sonoma, and I've been an activist for about a dozen years. I absolutely applaud the concept of having greater participation, especially if we could find a way to have our young people who are just turning 18 participate. And one thing might be considered is to give Civics Day so that the federal government does not penalize the lack of student participation in school, so they can actually go out and become clerks or assistant clerks in legislation or rather in elections. So unfortunately I find the pilot not acceptable because of the reasons it's failed in other places, and it's more like a diary, but I support the concept of having more participation. So thank you for your efforts.
My name is Cheryl Lilienstein. I live in Palo Alto, and I appreciate the effort to have greater inclusion. I myself registered 400 voters who are young people, and many of them wanted to know, well, why can't we just vote on the internet? So I understand that it's a popular idea, and it would be lovely if it would work, but I also trust that the science behind this is what we need to listen to, and I urge no vote.
Any more opposition? None? Assemblymember Donnelly? Question?
Thank you, Assemblyman Ting, for bringing this forward. You and I had a discussion about this in the hallway about it. It does sound exciting. We all want to increase participation. We want to increase access. But I think what we heard here, and I have to applaud all the people who came, even though you usually come to oppose my bills. I appreciate...
Maybe you should come to support my bills.
Well, no, today I felt your pain. Because I'm usually the one sitting there with everybody lined up in opposition. But I thought you were very articulate in the way that you guys presented something. And what's amazing here is there's a whole bunch of Tea Partiers down in my office right now. I was trying to get them up here, but my phone died. And I was hoping they would come, because it would be interesting to see that people from both sides of the political spectrum and the middle all feel so strongly that our vote count and that there not be any fraud. And that was the deepest concern that I heard. And I don't think we're at the place quite where we can go there. And I think there was a bill offered earlier today talking about a voter ID. I think if you're ever going to get to internet voting, one of the things that's going to have to be absolutely sacrosanct is the registration. Because then you would have to have some form of ID, because you're basically going to, I don't know quite how it would work, because it's a pilot program. You don't have any details. I like that. It's one line. But obviously, it's an idea that's under discussion, and I think all of these concerns would have to be answered, because if ultimately the process, basically, if the referees of the election become the key players, then we've got a problem, because we're going to have people, we're basically going to have elections that are invalidated by the distrust of the people. So obviously I'm going to have to oppose your bill today, but I do appreciate you bringing it forward. I appreciate all the testimony, and I don't feel that we're at a place where we're ready to test anything. I do think that the discussion needs to continue. Thank you.
Assemblymember Priya.
Mr. Ting, so thank you for bringing this forward. I understand the concern about fraud and the integrity of the system, and I think we're all concerned about that. And I think that that's important, especially when it comes around whether or not our votes count. But I think those are issues that could be worked out. I really do. I'm confident that. I'm kind of excited about online voting, about the opportunities that it could bring in, but there are some very real dangers out there, and I think we all recognize that, but I think that we could still do this and still try to figure out how to make it work appropriately and effectively so that every vote counts. And I had a very brief opportunity to look at the new amendments that were being offered, and truthfully, I liked your bill before the amendments. I liked it better. I mean, I'm still going to vote for it. But I thought your bill was stronger before the amendments. And one of the pieces that doesn't really seem to make sense to me is this simultaneous voting piece. It's like you're voting twice, and it just, I don't know, in my mind it just doesn't really work. It doesn't make sense. I would have preferred the bill prior to the amendments, But I'm still going to vote for it because I think that it's an important discussion to have and that we should continue to move it forward. And you know, if there were a time there were to come and you didn't have these amendments in the bill, I would still vote for it because I think that you're definitely headed in the right direction. I think the opportunity of online voting is very exciting and something that I think, considering all the technology we have, especially here in California, that we should look for a way to make that work. And so I'm supportive. I'm still supportive.
Thank you.
And have we made a motion yet?
No.
I'll make a motion to move.
I need to get clarification on the amendments. We don't have a copy of it. This committee staff nor I have any of the amendments.
Okay.
So we would like to, based on our discussion with Mr. Bonta's office, and I think Mr. Bonta, and I think we all, like Mr. Perrin, we're all very, very concerned about security. So after a top-to-bottom review that was conducted, just similar to the one that was conducted in 2007, and Mr. Hernandez mentioned why wouldn't we just do a top-to-bottom review? Well, the Secretary of State today can conduct on her own without any, she doesn't need the permission of the legislature to conduct a top-to-bottom review. What she does is, it's only legislation is needed to actually potentially pilot this effort. So the idea was to have another stopgap after the top-to-bottom review. And the reason the Assemblyman and I talked about simultaneous voting was really to test it out, almost in this particular pilot, so that you would have simultaneous voting, internet voting, and paper voting, and then it would be allowed another opportunity to actually do a test in a live circumstance. In this particular test, you would only count the paper ballots to begin with, and assuming that there was no sort of error, that you could move, the county could then move forward the election after that to move to internet. So it's actually another stopgap, because as all the members said, we're all concerned about security. We want to make sure that we take this very seriously. We take every opportunity to test this. That's why I've been working with all the advocates who've spoken today to try to see if there's a way to have the most stringent security test possible before we even begin to deploy it. So appreciate your support and just want to address that issue.
Assemblymember Bob.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Ting, first I want to thank you for your objectives here and your intent in this bill to increase engagement and have more voter participation. I think you, like everyone here in this room, is concerned about security and trying to make a secure system that retains its integrity and where every person's vote counts. And so some of the amendments that I'm willing to support for your bill provide a heightened threshold that this internet voting pilot would need to pass through before it can get to prime time, so to speak. And so by the end of the day, I think with the amendments that I have, with what you've already had in there with the top-to-bottom review, there's a pretty rigorous gauntlet that needs to be passed through before the internet voting can actually be implemented in a live election situation. And what I proposed is opt-in at a level smaller than a county. So a special district or a city can opt in to have internet voting as one mode of voting among all the others that already exist, and that they would have a simultaneous voting component. So they would have a paper ballot, which is the ballot that counts, and then they would also have an internet cast ballot that would be the process for which would be open and noticed to anyone who wants to interfere, free of prosecution, so that we can test the system. No matter what happens with the hackers and the viruses and the interference, the paper ballot counts. And then the internet, so it's almost like a control group, and the internet voting can be compared to see if there's inaccuracies, to see what security issues are. And so you need to pass through that whole, you need to successfully be able to demonstrate that the internet is secure and retains the integrity of the vote before you can move to the next step. So I like what you're doing. It's not without risks. It's not without grave concerns. What I've included with these proposed amendments, I think helps create a more rigorous.
Yeah. So we'll commit to getting those amendments in the bill before it goes to appropriations, so the committee can see it again. But the idea was we were asking for your consideration with what Mr. Bonta is proposing.
So maybe a motion as amended. Because it's my understanding that a bill, if it's a motion as amended, the bill does not move out of this policy committee officially until the amendments are actually made, is that?
Right, correct.
Right.
Correct.
So I'm okay to move the bill with amends.
Great, thank you.
I will second with amends. With the amendments as noted by Mr. Bowen.
Okay. It's the will of the committee to make the motion as bill as amended. So it's as amended. Okay. Motion and second as amended?
Yes.
All right. Any other comments? Well, we all support efforts to increase voter turnout, making voting more accessible. I'm confident that one day in the future, internet voting might be an option for voters. We must be cautious and mindful that we're protecting the security and integrity of the election at the same time. I applaud you for taking proactive steps to increase voter turnout and accessibility, but I can't make a recommendation on this bill because of the security and the integrity of the election. And so I will personally be unable to support this bill at this time, even with the amendments. And so with that, there's been a motion and a second with the amendments. Madam Secretary, please call roll.
Fong?
No.
Fong, no. Donnelly?
No.
Donnelly, no. Bocanegra?
Aye.
Bocanegra, aye. Bonta?
Aye.
Bonta, aye. Hall?
Aye.
Hall, aye. Lowe? Correa?
Aye.
Correa, aye. That's out.
4-2. Congratulations, it's out.
Folks, you gotta keep your coats to yourself. If not, you're gonna have to leave.